My name is Kelly Shrine. I teach third grade in Anchorage, Alaska, in the United States of America. This is my 12th year teaching, and I absolutely love it. And I'm so excited to be able to talk with all of you today. There looks like there's a lot of you, and I'm excited to answer some of your questions.
What made you achieve prestigious recognition as Alaska Teacher of the Year 2022?
Thank you for that question. In 2020, when the pandemic happened, when COVID happened, um, the Anchorage School District and all over the country and all over the world, schools were shutting down because they didn't want those germs to spread. And I was in the middle of teaching a wonderful fourth grade class, and I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to them. School stopped suddenly. I had to pack up all their things without them. And I felt like I wasn't done with them, that I didn't get to say goodbye. They weren't done learning from me. And I didn't feel like it was fair to my students. So I started doing drive-bys to their homes, and I kept a safe distance, but students would come out of their houses at their doors or their windows, and they would wave hello, and I would remind them to finish the book that we were reading. We were in the middle of a chapter book where the red fern grows, and I'm like, remember to finish reading that. Sometimes I brought copies to my students so they could read that. And I wrote postcards to them. I had Zoom meetings with them. I tried to stay as connected as possible with my students during the school closures. And then I also had a lot of students who were really hungry and they didn't get to, a lot of their food that they received was from school. And so when schools shut down, it also stopped a lot of my students from being able to have their free breakfasts and their free lunches. And so I would pack some of those school lunches up for them and drive them to their homes so they could have something to eat for a while. And then I also reached out in the community here in the city and asked restaurants if they were willing to make food and donate food that I could pick up and then bring to my students' families. And so really it just I believe there were a few different reasons why I got the award, the Alaska State Teacher of the Year in 2022, but I think a big reason was just recognizing that my students were, the school year wasn't over. There were a lot of them that I felt still needed me, and I still had a lot to teach them, and I wasn't done with them. So really just building those relationships with my students, even though COVID happened and everyone said, oh, school's over. I didn't feel like that was right. And I felt like it was a disservice to them to have done that in a lot of ways. So I think that that was one of the big reasons, one of the major reasons that I got that award that year. And I'm really grateful for it because I know there's a lot of other amazing teachers.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Anushka and Prida from JPH Salem. Can I ask one question, ma'am?
Hi, yes, please. Thank you.
What strategies do you use to engage students in learning?
Thank you. That's an amazing question too. You guys have amazing questions. So there are a lot of different strategies I use in my classroom to engage my learners, my students. Um, One of those ways to engage students, I really like to do cooperative learning. So I really like students to work together as much as possible. I have my students, and it kind of looks like your classroom is like this too. I have my students in groups near each other so they can turn and they can talk and they can discuss their learning amongst one another. Um, I like to I like to be there as a teacher and kind of guide students towards the learning that I want them to learn, but I want them to kind of find their own routes, if that makes sense. Their routes to the end point of the learning objectives. So I'm there to kind of lead them and guide them, but I want them to get there with each other and themselves. So definitely a lot of cooperative learning. I love that we get opportunities in my school district to give students hands-on learning. I can show a student a science lesson, a science project. I can show them fun things, but I feel students learn best when they get to experience those things themselves and have some of that hands-on learning. Makes learning really, really fun for them and helps keep that engagement piece with them. And then again, just those relationships and making learning as personal as possible. A lot of the topics that my students learn in class don't really relate to them on a personal level, but if I can in some way still teach them that learning content, but relate it to their lives or kind of give them different scenarios, they seem to be more engaged and um, they like that way of learning a lot more. So just again, cooperative learning, hands-on learning, and then just making learning as personal as possible for my students so they can relate to it. There has been a time or two where I've done a cartwheel in class to try to get them, to wake up and listen. I'm just like, oh, hey guys, and I just kind of like jump around and try to make it really exciting. I want my students to feel like and know that I love learning too, and I'm excited about it because if they learn from a teacher who doesn't like the content they're teaching, it's not going to be as fun for them. So I just try to keep it as fun as possible.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine, ma'am. Good evening. What are the biggest challenges you face as a teacher?
That's also a really great question. There are many challenges that that face me as a teacher and face my students, but I think the biggest one of the biggest ones that comes to my mind is all of the testing that we give our students. And I'm so curious to maybe I can talk with your teacher another day and ask questions too, because I'm so curious how you guys do in India. But we give our students so many tests and so many assessments. I think it overwhelms our students, and it can also be conflicting information for teachers. So if I we can give a student a test to see what they know about math and then give them a different test to see what they know about math. And sometimes the tests don't tell us the same thing, if that makes sense. And so while I think state testing and assessments and standardized tests are all really good to kind of give teachers information about what their students know and what they still need to know, um, they can also be really contradicting with each other, and they can tell me the student needs to know more about this, but then another test says that they already know that. So I think that that's a really big challenge in our state. um, and it just puts a lot of amount of stress on students. I know my students personally very well, and I know my students who are really strong readers, and I've had many tests that come back, reading tests that say that my students don't know how to read, and when they read for me all of the time, which I think is really strange. And so I think a really big challenge as a teacher and for my students, it would be the state testing and how many other standardized tests we give them. I think that that's really hard on them. And it also, to have them in front of the computer for 3.5 hours or more for these state testing days is very hard. They're still children and they need to stop and have a break and use the bathroom and have a snack. But I feel like we're putting so many demands on our students that we don't have as much autonomy to teach them things that are near and dear to their hearts. We're constantly testing, testing, testing. So I think that's a really big challenge right now for our kids and for me as a teacher.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine, ma'am.
Thank you.
Can, this is Leela Ashni, an 8th grader from JPHS Sailaram. Can I ask you one question, ma'am?
Yes, I would love it. Thank you. Go ahead.
How do you stay connected with other educators and resources in the state?
Thank you. That's a great question. There's so many different ways that I stay connected with teachers and educators. One of them is Zoom, like this. I get to talk to you guys right now in another country over the computer, and it's amazing. It just blows my mind how technology can bring your class and me together right now to have this conversation. So technology is a really big way I stay connected with other educators. Um, Also, last year and this year, our district has implemented what's called PLCs, so professional learning communities. And every Monday, we delay the start of school 1 hour. So students get to stay at home an extra hour that Monday morning every week. And we get together in groups as teachers, and we get to discuss learning targets for our students and what are they understanding? What do they still need help and support with? How are we going to guide students in that direction and help students learn what they need to learn? And so having that time to be able to sit and talk with other staff members at my school every week, once a week at least, it's been really beneficial for the students of our school. It's been absolutely amazing. Um, and then another way that I keep in contact with other educators, I was, as we talked about previously, the 2022 Alaska State Teacher of the Year, but there were also other state teachers of the year from other states in the United States of America. And we get on social media a lot and we keep in contact. We have coffee over Zoom the first Saturday of every month just to be able to say, hi, how are you guys? What are you working on in your classrooms? What's going on in your states? How are things going for you? And we are able to stay connected in that way informally and just kind of bond that way. And then I also attend a lot of district conferences and school meetings, and I am able to talk with other teachers throughout the district in these ways, via email, in person, and sometimes I just like to meet with them over the weekend because they're a close friend, and we talk about things we're doing in the classroom and how we can improve our instruction and our learning. So that community of educators working together is extremely important. We can't just close our classroom doors and be a one-room schoolhouse. It's really important that we learn from one another. I am my teaching partner that is the other third grade teacher in my school. Him and I work together all the time. We talk all the time. I'm in my 12th year of teaching, but he is in his 32nd year of teaching, and we learn so much from each other. And then this year I have a student intern who's in my class learning how to be a teacher, and she'll take over a classroom of her own next year. But I've learned so much from her, and she is a brand new teacher. So it's really important to stay connected with other educators as much as possible because teachers learn so much from one another. It's really, really important to stay connected in every way possible.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Your
So,
question was
Kelly,
great.
thank you so much for your time. Actually, I am now in my classroom. So once any teacher working in a public sector enters the classroom, especially the school campus, and we have a, a teacher's attendance app. Look at this one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's cool.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have to capture my image here, and the time as well as my photo should be captured. And it's a process mandatory for every teacher working in the public sector here. So do you have such a image capturing, the schedule or something like that in your country as a public school teacher?
Logging us in and making sure that we're there attendance wise.
Yes.
Um, that's a really good question. So certified teachers do not have like a daily login system. We are just expected to be there professionally, but paraprofessionals, so teacher aides and other support staff, they do have to um, check in and check out of the building every day with the log that they do, a time log that they do. But classroom teachers do not know. But if we don't want to be, or if we have a meeting, or if we have an appointment, we do have to coordinate that absence with our principal. Yeah.
How about the students? Do students have to register their attendance again using these mobile apps, or do they have any manual attendance register that we have to take the students' attendance?
Yeah, so I take attendance for my students on a system that's called Q. on Zangle, and I pull my computer up and I pull the system up every morning. We take attendance in the morning and the afternoon because some kids leave during lunch with their parents to go to an appointment. We have to, you know, for safety reasons, we have to say if they're there or not, if something ever happened. And there's other reasons too. But yeah, they'll have their name and I'll say if they're either tardy. So if they're late to school, I'll note that. If they're not there, I'll mark them as an unexcused absence. And sometimes the parents will call and then the office will say that they were excused. So yeah, we take attendance twice a day for students.
Before we wind up this session, may I request you to give a message to my students?
Yes, I'd love to. So, boys and girls, keep working really hard. Keep trying your best. Keep listening to your teacher. Keep listening to your parents and your elders. Really important. And boys and girls, if you continue to try as hard as possible and listen to your adults there, you will be successful. You will go so far. And I'm just so excited that I was able to be with you guys this evening. Oh, for you, morning, that I was able to be with you guys this morning and talk to you guys a little bit about how I'm a teacher in Alaska and what I do with my kids and what means the most to me. So thank you guys for having me, and I hope you have an amazing day.